Thank everybody for joining in. We just wanted to do a live right quick to go over some information that we are currently putting forward with regard to our trilogy. So some of you are aware, some of you may not be aware. We just released our second documentary film. You see the information on the screen, the flyer on the screen, Hoodoo, Akan Ancestral Religion in North America. So we released that film October 17th. And for those who are unaware, I'm Odwirafo Kwesi Radnehmata, Akan Odwirafo of Akwamumai Marukati Vimudi Akwamu Nation in North America within Ojiraman, the Purified Nation, Afuraka, Afuraitkait people, African Black people in the Western Hemisphere. So this is actually the second film that we produced. And when you go on the site, we'll pull this up real quick. On our Conche Films site, you'll see we have both films posted up here. In fact, let me switch over. Okay. All right, so this is the first film that we produced a few years back, Amarokafo Adebisa, African American Ancestral Divination. So what we did with that film is we went and connected with practitioners of various expressions of Afuraka, Afuraitkait, African Ancestral Religion in North America. So for example, we show that the voodoo tradition is the, Ewe and Phone tradition preserved in the blood circles of Black people in North America for the past 300 plus years. So we connected with Voodoo Queen Galinda Laveau in New Orleans, and we talked about the forms of divination that have been preserved in our blood circles for hundreds of years. The Juju tradition, which is Yoruba ancestral religion, preserved in the blood circles of our people in North America. We preserved the Yoruba tradition, the Orisha tradition, as the Juju tradition in North America. So those who were Yoruba people who were forced into North America, they continued practicing the Yoruba ancestral religion, the Orisha tradition, calling it Juju. It became popularly known as Juju. Ju meaning to cast or throw in the Yoruba language. So Juju dealing with casting, medicine, casting, energy, and so forth, the most powerful expression of the tradition. So those who were Yoruba, the Juju man and the Juju woman, originally they were calling themselves and identifying themselves as a Yoruba man or Yoruba woman. If you were a voodoo man or voodoo woman in North America, you were identifying yourself as an Ewe man or Ewe woman. We talked about the Wanga tradition of the Ovambo people from Namibia and Angola, also part of the Gullah constellation. So if you heard someone talking about throwing the Wanga and so forth, we connected with Sashat Tuankwajet in Florida, who is from that Gullah tradition, also inclusive of the Ovambo people, and that Wanga tradition, casting the Wanga and so forth, the Wanga man, Wanga woman, and so forth. That was the, and is the Ovambo tradition preserved in the blood circles of our people in North America. Mama Mawusia Shakir out of Cincinnati. She's the one dealing with the Juju tradition, the Yoruba tradition. Kajara Nia Ya Nebet, Rakit Kajara Nia Ya Nebet. We went to Florida to connect, Georgia to connect with her. The Ngangan tradition, which is the Fang tradition, preserved in our blood circles for hundreds of years in North America. The Fang people, F-A-N-G, from Gabon and Cameroon, they preserved their ancestral religious practices. So when they were forced into North America, they continued their ancestral religious practices. That is the Ngangain tradition. Sometimes people say the Nganga tradition, but in Fang, it's Ngangain tradition. And then, of course, on our end, I'm Akan. We practice the Hoodoo tradition. That is Akan Ancestral Religion in North America. So when our Akan Ancestresses and Ancestors, when we were forced into North America, of course, as Akan people from the regions of today's Ghana and Ivory Coast, we were forced into the Western Hemisphere, but of course, we continue to speak our language, we continue to practice our culture, we continue the Akan religion under the term Undu, which means medicine from roots, trees, and plant life. In the Akan language, it also means to become heavy with the spirit, through spirit possession and spirit communication. It also means to feel a presentiment or foreboding, to see what's unfolding in the spirit realm and so forth, divinatory practices. So Undu in Akan came to be pronounced hoodoo in North America. So if someone said they were a hoodoo man or hoodoo woman, they were saying, I'm an Akan man and Akan woman. If they said I'm a juju man or juju woman, they were saying I'm a Yoruba man or Yoruba woman. If they said I'm a voodoo man or voodoo woman, I'm an Eve man, Eve woman. If they said I'm a Wanga man, Wanga woman, they were saying I'm an Ovambo man, Ovambo woman. When they say, you know, I'm an Ngangain, male or female, man or woman, they're saying I'm a Fang man, a Fang woman. So in that first film, we dealt with the divinatory practices. Adebisa means divination, the forms of divination that we preserved in our blood circles for hundreds of years, unbroken to this day. So the priesthoods and priestesshoods of our various ancestral religious practices have been maintained intact for hundreds of years in North America. The reason we put that out is because many people assume falsely that Black people in North America, in the United States specifically, did not preserve our ancestral religious practices. They see that people in Cuba preserved the Lukumi tradition, for example, or the Congo tradition under the form of Palo. They talk about Brazil and Candomblé and Haiti, you know, Vodou and so forth, and Winti in Suriname in South America, and Komfa in Guyana in South America and so forth. But when it comes to our people in the United States, we assume that we didn't preserve anything. So we are dependent on traveling to the Caribbean, traveling to South America, traveling to Afuraka, Afuraitkait, Africa, to get ancestral religion and bring it back, because we falsely have been conditioned to believe that we didn't preserve our tradition. So we prove, for example, a major expression of the tradition is the divinatory practices. And we show through Amarukafo Adibisa, African American ancestral divination, how we preserve these practices. Now, so that was the first film. We put that out in October a few years back, 5 years ago in October. Now, this past October, let's go back. Just a few months ago, this past October, we released our second film, and you'll see also that Amarukafo Adibisa, we actually won an award at the Kwanzaa Film Festival in New York, Best Original Documentary. We were also featured in the Pembroke Taparelli Art and Film Festival in California. We went out there and we had we sat on a panel and so forth and screened the film and, had sessions and so forth dealing with ancestral religion. So the follow-up to that is Hoodoo, Akan Ancestral Religion in North America. So for those who have not seen the film, just released it, as we said, on October 17th. And here we go into detail on the Hoodoo tradition. Now, the first film was 5 different traditions from 5 different practitioners from 5 different parts of the country, Chicago, Atlanta, Florida, Cincinnati, New Orleans. But here in the Hoodoo film, we do a deep dive into the Hoodoo tradition. We start talking about the etymology and cosmology of the various terms and ritual practices that comprise the foundation of the Hoodoo tradition, all rooted in Akan cosmology. We are the first to prove that Hoodoo is an Akan term, Mojo is an Akan term, Kanche, which becomes Kanje, or conjure is an Akan term. Haint, as in haint, spirits, is an Akan term. We go into detail about High John the Conqueror, which is Nyama, or Jama, Kakaru. We show he was an Akan ancestor from the Akwamu Akan Empire and so forth. We go into detail about that in the film. So we do a deep dive into the Hoodoo tradition, firmly establishing the identity of Hoodoo as specifically Akan Ancestral Religion. Now, let me pull this up right quick. All right. Second. I just want to pull up this, the information that we sent out. All right. So the information we put out today, and what you've seen, we posted it a couple of times on, different social media. We sent out an email and so forth, but we're talking about the Hoodoo Trilogy. Now, of course, when we're talking about trilogy, we're talking about 3 films. This Hoodoo film that we just released in October is the first film in a 3-part series. And now we are in production for part 2, which we are going to release in end of September, beginning of October of this year. And then part 3 will be released next year, most likely in the spring. But what are we focusing on in the second part? So we talked about already in part 1 of the trilogy, we dealt with the trustorical, that means true, historical, and cosmological identity of Hoodoo as Akan Ancestral Religion preserved in the blood circles of our Akan Ancestresses and Ancestors in North America. So some people, of course, have put forward the false notion that Hoodoo comes from the Congo people, or the Yoruba people, or even the Ewe people, or Fong people, or Dogon people, and all these different groups, which is totally inaccurate. People, first and foremost, most people who are writing about that, beyond the whites and our offspring, but even within our own community, if they weren't really a part of the founding culture of Hoodoo, then they don't know the founding culture, they don't know the origins. So they're reading books, looking at what other writers have speculated about. They look at certain ritual practices that look similar to what people do in the Congo and other places. And if you look all over West and Central Afuraka, Afuraitkait, Africa, you will find similar ritual practices, similar sculptures, ritual figures, and so forth, all kinds of things. But then there are very specific, expressions that are unique to each group, including language and specific approaches to ritual. And when you're a part of the actual founding culture, when you're part of the Akan culture and you know what the ritual practices are, then we can clearly identify the Akan root of the Hoodoo tradition. And it's not just etymological, but that we start off with the etymology to prove that Hoodoo is the Akan term, as we said before, mojo, haint, jackball, various things that we go into. So in the first part, we dealt with that. Now, part 2 of the trilogy, as we say here, we're going to focus on Hoodoo ritual. We're going to talk about ritual song, ritual dance, ritual chant, ritual prayer, ritual sacred movement, divination, these various forms of ritual that people need to see. First and foremost, what their versatility is, what their feasibility is. We don't just do empty ritual. We don't just engage in symbolic ritual. That's true of Hoodoo, that's true of any Afuraitkait or African Ancestral Religion, period. We're always engaged in the process of receiving, processing, and transmitting energy in some form or fashion, which is also a quantifiable form or fashion, to affect our reality, to expand our consciousness, sharpen our consciousness, and positively impact our reality, aligning our thoughts, intentions, and actions with divine order. So that's what we're always engaged in. We don't engage in simple, empty, symbolic, useless ritual. No different than physiologically on the mundane side. If you have an illness, you don't just engage in rituals of picking up, herbs that look like medicine and tasting them and putting them back down. You only grab herbs that are going to cure the illness. You don't engage in anything symbolic. If you went to a physician and you had an ailment and they gave you something symbolic and says, well, this represents medicine, so go ahead and pretend like you're taking that, you wouldn't go back to that physician because you need something that's going to be effective. We don't engage in empty symbolic ritual like the whites and their offspring. We learned that from them through the Christian church or Islam or Hebrewism, Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism, and so forth. They engage in a great deal of empty, symbolic pseudo-ritual because they do not have the spiritual foundation to connect with real ancestral religion, which these fake traditions were stolen from. Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, and so forth, as we show in our book, Cuckoo Tum, the whites and their offspring invaded ancient Afuraka, Afuraitkait Africa, learned about ancestral religion, manufactured these characters after corrupting specific fragments of ancient texts from ancient Kamit, ancient Egypt, and so forth, and manufactured the fictional character Jesus, Yeshua, manufactured the fictional character Yahweh, Allah, Buddha, Brahman, Muhammad, and so forth. And we go into detail about that in our book, and we also touch on that in the first film. So of course, they're going to have empty ritual because they're not dealing with real deities. They're not dealing with real spirituality. It's a fraudulent, exercise. But for us, we're aligning our thoughts, intentions, and actions with the forces that govern all of creation. The spiritual forces that animate plant life, animal life, mineral life, the earth mother, the sun, moon, stars, black substance of space, the oceans, rivers, everything in creation, we're in harmony with, and the spiritual forces that animate these different features of creation, the forces in nature, we align ourselves with these spiritual forces in creation. So this is what we talk about when we're dealing with effective and real ritual. So the second piece will go from, location to location, and we'll be getting footage of individuals involved in and dealing with and explaining in detail the nature and function of ritual. What's the nature and function of Oshwie, libation? What's the nature and function of spirit possession, spirit communication? Nkom, Akom, spirit communication, spirit possession. What's the nature and function of Adebisor or oracular divination? What's the nature and function of Susuhum, which is meditation? What's the nature and function of Asal, which is ritual dance? What's the nature and function of Ejun, ritual song? What's the nature and function of Mpai, ritual prayer? When we receive, process, and transmit energy in a quantifiable fashion to affect and impact our reality in a harmonious, orderly fashion, then we're dealing with real ritual. That's what we're going to get into. Now, and then we say in part 3 of this trilogy, so part 2 is going to come out in the fall. Part 3 will come out next year. We're going to deal with the Hoodoo Wars. So let me touch on that real quick. And of course, if you have any questions in the, you can post them in the chat on Zoom or YouTube. So I'm going to pull up a couple of things so we can get into this. All right. Now, this is our page, Hoodoo People. and it's a repository for information about the Hoodoo tradition. We published our seminal book, Hoodoo People, which we're going to pull up in a second, but we also have a Hoodoo Cast, a podcast for authentic Hoodoo, Akan Ancestral Religion in North America. We have our annual Hoodoo Mind, Hoodoo Nation Festival. That's every October. Those are some of the videos from that. We taught a number of different online courses. We have 9 online courses in the Hoodoo tradition that are accessible. But let's click on our book real quick. So this is a book where we properly identify, properly give the etymology of the term Hoodoo, and we go into detail about that to prove conclusively and ground the tradition consciously in the consciousness of the people that this is the Akan tradition that we preserved in our blood sermons. So we say Afuraka, Afuraitkait, meaning Africans in North America, Akan, custodians of Hoodoo from ancient Hoodoo, Undunu land, ancient Khanit, Nubia. Now, so as we stated earlier, when you look here, the Akan term Undu in the Akwamu dialect is pronounced Nduru. In the Asante Akan dialects, you have a number of different Akan groups. The Asante people, or Ashanti, is a major Akan group. The Fanti people is another Akan group. The Akwamu, from which we are descended, is another Akan group. So in the Akwamu dialect, the term Ndu means medicine. And the Asante dialect is Nduru, Nduru. So 2 different variations of the same term. The root is du, Ndu, Nduru. That ru at the end is a stem that elongates, noun and so forth. In the Asante dialect, very often they have a stem at the end of a root word and so forth, but in Akwamu is Undu, and Asante is Nduru, but that's important for a number of different reasons. The root term is du, and the Asante is Iduru, Eduru single, Nduru plural, but Ndu in Akwamu. So powder, medicine, drug, and so forth. And then we show that this is actually Ndun, the same thing in ancient Kamit and the Medutu, the hieroglyphs. Then we say show dua, edua, which is plural, is Ndua. It says plant, tree, shrub, stem or stalk of a plant, or its leaf or fruit, and so forth. Dua, to plant, to put into the ground, that's the verb, dua. Then dua is the noun, which is the plant itself, plant life. So undu, medicine, comes from the undua, the plant life, the roots, the trees, the plants, and so forth. We show the same term. It's not uden, but udun, a kind of tree. So the same word that means medicine in ancient Kemet, undun, is the same word that means a kind of tree or plant, undun. The same word, undu, that means medicine from roots, trees, and plant life in Akan, undu, is the root of the same term, undua, which is the roots, the trees, the plant life, and all of that. So we show that undu, or unduru, medicine, medicinal substance in Akan, undua, tree, plant, plants. Undun in ancient Kemet, medicine, medicinal substance, undun, tree, plant, or plants. And then you have titles that are built upon that root. So, dun, seen, and seen means a piece or a part. So a piece or a part, seen, of the undu, of the roots, the trees, the plant life. So undun seen is the stump of a tree, that's a piece, unseen, of the undu, the plant life, the undua, the plant life from which the Undu, the medicine, comes. And this is why an Odun Sini, plural, Odun Sini Fo, a native physician, medicine man, charmer, sorcerer, that's what they would say in the old dictionaries. But the Odun Sini, which is singular, Odun Sin Fo, plural, is one of the group of people, Fo, who engages the Odun Sin process. That is one of the people who utilizes the plants, the trees, the stumps, the Undua, makes medicine out of them, Undu, and then heals the client. The Odun Sin Fo, or Odun Sini. So Odun Sini is singular, Odun Sin Fo is plural. So the Odun Sini or Odun Sini Fo is the root, Undu, medicine, Undu, maker, the one who makes the medicine and so forth. Native physician, medicine man, once he makes the medicine, gives it to the client. So that is literally the Undun, root, plant, tree, stalk, stump, and so forth, the root doctor. Then you have the Odwirafo, which is the Unduyefo. The term ye means to work or to do. So the Odu ye means to work or do. The Undu, the medicine from the Undua, the roots, the trees, the plant life. So that's to work or do, ye, the Undu. Unduyefo or Odwirafo is one of the group of people. Fo means plural, as in group. Fo, like folks. But in Akan, it's fo, which means people or group. It's a plural suffix. Odwirafo means one of the group of people, fo, who engages the Odu, ye process. One who works, ye, the Undu or Udu. It's the root worker. Odun Sinfo is the root doctor. Odwirafo is the root worker. And then we also have the term du, meaning to be heavy. And you'll see duru in the Asante dialect, du in the Akwamu dialect, to descend, dismount, alight, come down, to descend into, to strike of lightning, to feel a presentiment or foreboding, to become heavy with, to descend upon, alight upon, come down upon. That's undu. Someone becomes heavy, and let's look at that term also, duru or do, as you can see right here. Let's go back up real quick. Duru, also do in the Akwamu dialect, heaviness or weight, heavy, weighty, ponderous. And then the same word, undun, to be heavy or weight. So we're showing in the Akan language, undu means medicine from roots, trees, plant life. Undu, to become heavy, weighty. And then you also have undu, to descend, dismount, alight, come down upon. That's the spirit coming down upon the person, descending upon the person, alighting upon the person through spirit possession. When the spirit comes down upon the person, undu, to come down upon someone, they become undu, heavy with the spirit, because the spirit is mounting them and so forth. And then it says to feel a presentiment or foreboding, to see what's unfolding in the spirit realm, so you can make ritual adjustments in order to live in harmony or harmonize your thoughts, intentions, and actions with divine order. So first, you feel a presentiment or foreboding. The spirit comes down upon you. We would say undu, the spirit comes down upon. Then you become undu, you become heavy. Then you begin to be able to access the undu, the medicine from the roots, the trees, the plant life. You feel a presentiment or foreboding of what's unfolding in the spirit realm in a divinatory or oracular fashion. That is undu as well. So the term undu is tied up into this ritual practice of seeing what's unfolding in the spirit realm, spiritual sight, spiritual communication, spiritual possession, becoming heavy with the spirit, making medicine as a undun sinifo, root doctor, unduyefo, root worker. We also have the odumafo, which is the diviner, odutofo, which makes that poison to kill the enemy and so forth. So we have these different ritual practitioners, oduyefo, undusinfo, undutofo, Udumafo, all with Undu as the root of the name in Akan tradition. So this book goes into a lot of details dealing with that. Now, let's switch over real quick. And by the way, that book is a free download. All 31 of our books are free downloads from our website. Now, we also have, as we mentioned before, we have a yearly festival. Let me just pull up the site for that real quick. We had our 9th annual Hoodoo Hoodoo Nation Festival just this past October. And this is the flyer for that. So it's a celebration of Akan Ancestral Religion in North America. And we normally have it here in DC with vendors and so forth. This year we did a online virtual version of the conference. And we did a review of our film because we had just released the film a few days before the conference. So we decided to have a discussion about the film. But we have this conference every year. We have different people presenting on different aspects of the Hoodoo tradition. And for the first 3 years, we put out a Hoodoo Hoodoo Nation Festival journal. And let me just show you that, copies of that. You can download all copies of the journal, PDF versions of the journal for free from our website. So on our Nhoma page, our book page, you'll see Hoodoo Mind 13,000 to 16, which was October 2015. That was the first year that we did it. That was the journal from that year. The following year, this is the second journal. And then the third year, 13,018, we had the journal there. And this is the PDF version of that journal. So we have different articles talking about the Hoodoo tradition and different aspects of the culture and so forth, and ritual practices, a number of different things. When we talked about in the Hoodoo Trilogy, part 3, we'll deal with the Hoodoo Wars. There's an article that we dealt with, that we examined the solar eclipse Okunfo Yao, which is the Akan title for Nat Turner. And we said Alsar and Heru. And we started talking about Nat Turner. Okunfo means warrior. Yao in the Akan tradition is someone who was born on Yaoda, which is Thursday, the day of the deity Yao. The deity Yao in the Akan tradition is called Heru in ancient Kemet, the son of Asar Naset. Yao is called Shango in the Yoruba tradition. He's called Hevioso in the Vodun tradition. Also called So or Sobo and so forth. But this is the king, but he's also the warrior and so forth, that warrior energy. Any male born on Thursday, Yaoda, that is an indication to the community that this person's spiritual head is governed by the divinity Yao. This is why he was sent into the womb to be born into the world on Yaoda, or the day of the deity Yao, so that people can understand that this is a child who's governed by this divinity, to assist them in the spiritual cultivation of that energy that he brings into the community. So Nat Turner was a warrior, of course. Nkufo led one of the greatest rebellions against the whites in our spring on this continent and so forth. He was an Okunfo warrior, and he was also born on Yaoda, on Thursday. He was a child of the deity Ya. He also had Akan ancestry, and he talks about, when you look at the true story of Nat Turner and so forth, talking about his grandmother and so forth. She was an Akan woman from the region of the Akan empires in Ghana, where Ghana is now, Ghana and Ivory Coast and so forth. He brought that energy into the world, into the Western Hemisphere. Now, so we talk about the Hoodoo Wars, just like you have the so-called misnomered Seminole Wars, which are really the Gullah Wars. Black people practicing the Gullah and Geechee tradition, waging war against the United States government, forcing the government to spend their entire military budget to go against the Gullah people, which later is misnomered the Seminole Wars and so forth. And that was the precursor to the Civil War and forced the end of enslavement. But we fought the government for a number of years and so forth, the United States military, and had them in a quandary for years until the Civil War broke out. So, but just like there are misnomered Seminole Wars, but the Gullah Wars, there are also what we call the Hoodoo Wars. The major proponent of that, Okunfo Yao Nat Turner. His rebellion sent shockwaves throughout the South and so forth because they murdered, massacred, annihilated many of the so-called slave masters, their family, staff, liberated our people from plantation to plantation, and the rebellion kept growing. And it struck fear in the hearts of the plantation owners, the criminals, the colonizers, and so forth, because they feared that these rebellions would just continue to explode. And eventually that is exactly what happened, which led to the Gullah Wars, led to the Civil War, led to the end of enslavement. So Okunfo Yao Nat Turner is one of them. Okunfo Kwabena, so-called Denmark Vesey, is another Akan ancestor, Charleston, South Carolina, organizing one of the largest revolts, thousands of people ready to totally destroy and take over the city of Charleston, South Carolina, and so forth. Then, of course, we have Nana Abena Araminta, Harriet Tubman. So, let's switch back right quick. So you'll see Nana Abena Araminta, her Akan name. She's an Abena, born on Tuesday, Abenada, and so forth. Once again, she has a Santi Akan ancestry. That's her direct incarnation. She talked about that. Her people talked about that. They ended up doing DNA tests, her descendants, and they found that she does have the same Asante Akan ancestry that she always talked about. And they have a statue of her in Ghana and so forth. And her people have traveled to Ghana and so forth after the DNA test that confirmed the oral true story of her saying that her grandmother was an Asante woman and her grandmother taught her that. Her grandmother was taken directly from the continent and forced over into North America into enslavement, but she never gave up her culture and she passed it on to her descendants. And of course, Nana Abena Araminta Harriet Tubman, she was the first woman to lead a regiment in the army in the Civil War. There's the Combahee River Raid, where she led an armed force regiment, and they freed over 700 of our people who were enslaved and so forth. And of course, in addition to the fact of the whole Underground Railroad piece and so forth, but she was an Akan ancestress, leading our people to, freedom and so forth. But she was also one who practiced Akan Ancestral Religion, the Hoodoo tradition. When they talk about her having epileptic fits, she was simply going into possession, being possessed, spirit possession, Akom, Nkom. When she came out of spirit possession, she knew which direction to go to lead the people so they wouldn't get caught when they were escaping from enslavement. And as she said, she never lost a passenger on the Underground Railroad. Now, so we're going to be talking about in the third film, the Hoodoo Wars. Those Akan people practicing Hoodoo religion, Akan women, Akan men, who utilize their ancestral religious practice, the Hoodoo tradition, to empower and free our people from enslavement. So that's part 3. But as we said, part 2, we're going to get into ritual. Now let me touch on one other piece right quick. in the film that we just released, that's out now, you can check it out. We go into detail about what this article, we wrote this article a few years back. It's in the journal, volume 3 of the Hoodoo Mind, Hoodoo Nation Festival Journal, Nhomao Journal, Nyama and Kakaduru, the Akan origin of High John the Conqueror, the man in the root revealed. So we lay out the information. We talk about our great ancestor who was from the Akwamu Akan Empire. He was lieutenant of the Akwamu king, the Akwamu Hini. Hini means king, so the Akwamu was a great empire in the region of today's Ghana. They're still an empire or great nation now, the Akwamu nation. Akwamu Minor or the Akwamu nation. During that time, they were an empire, a powerful military, might in that western part of the continent. Because of internal struggles and internal warfare, internal conflicts, civil war, and so forth, some of them were captured and forced into North America. So the lieutenant of the king, the Akwamu king, the Akwamu Hini, his lieutenant was captured along with his entourage and forced into the Western Hemisphere in the year so-called 1733. And then we document in this article, and we also talk about this in the film, how this individual whose name was Nyama, who's also called Njama or Jama, he was called Johnny or John by the whites in Spring, by the Danish colonizers. He was in the West Indies, in the Danish colonies and so forth, St. John's Island. And then, of course, some of the descendants ended up in North America, but forced into this part of the Western Hemisphere in the West Indies. St. John and St. Thomas Islands are, sister islands just a couple of miles apart. They were dropped off at St. John's. They were developing St. John's into a great plantation. Jama, he was a, lieutenant, so his people saw him as one of the royals. He was a leader on the plantation. They organized a revolt, and then they waged war against the plantation owners, and they took over the entire island. And they held and controlled the island for nearly 6 months. And then eventually reinforcements were sent by the French and so forth, and the Danes and so forth, and the rebellion was ultimately put down. And Jama, he decided, along with some of his entourage, that he would not be taken alive. So they did ritual suicide, and he said his spirit would be in this root. So if you ever need to reach him, all you need to do is invoke or evoke his spirit through this sacred root. The sacred root that is utilized is called Kakadu. In the Asante dialect, it's Kakaduru. In the Akwamu dialect, it's Kakadu. And let's go down and show that real quick. So you see the term in Akan, Keka, and it's also Kaka equals Keka or Kaka in the Akan language. It means to touch. And then you also have fierceness, ferocity, irrepressibility, wild, intractable, and so forth, untamable. And Keka also means biting. A Kekaduru or Kakaduru, a medicine. They'll say here used for toothache, but the medicine itself is called ginger. So Keka or Kaka means to bite. Kaka also means to touch or to rub. Kaka also means fierce, ferocious, irrepressible, untamable, and so forth. And duru or undu means medicine. So the Kaka duru is the rubbing medicine. Kaka duru or Kakaru. The Kaka duru is the biting or the chewing. Kaka undu medicine. So you have the rubbing medicine, the biting or chewing medicine, When we talk about High John the Conqueror or High John the Conqueror root, it's talking about chewing my root or rubbing my root and so forth. But it also talks about, many writers were assuming that High John the Conqueror was a mythical figure. Then others said that he was a king from the Congo in different places. In reality, Jama, the Ohini, the Asafo-Hini, the warrior chief, he was a royal warrior chief, Asafo-Hini, lieutenant to the Akwamu king, the Akwamu-Hini. He was a fiery, irrepressible, untamable individual who led the Great Rebellion that took over the entire island for 6 months. Before he transitioned, he said that if you need to reach me, my spirit will go into this root, into this Kakadu or Kakaru. And so the Jama Kakaru or Jamas Kakaru became Jama Kankarut or Johnny Kankarut or Johnny Kankaruru. So when Bo Diddley or, Muddy Waters says, I'm gonna go and get my Johnny Kankarut, the Danes, when they enslaved our people, and they said in their writings and so forth, and in fact, let me pull this up real quick, just so you can see it. We're talking about the 1733 slave insurrection on St. John's Island. The Akwamu ethnic group, subgroup of the Akan, led the rebellion and took over the island for 6 months. The Danes were running St. Thomas Island, and St. John's as well. So the great insurrection, and this is why you see it. This is in a copy and paste from Wikipedia. The reason why you see it in Wikipedia and all over the internet and so forth, and books have been written about it and so forth, is because it was a major war that we waged against the whites in Arab Spring, and we took over the entire island. This is before, decades before Haiti, before the Haitian Revolution, and before they took over the entire island. Prior to that, about 70 years prior to that, the Akwamu people took over the island of St. Thomas for a number of months. So the Danes, in their writings, talk about the natives call this individual King Jama, but the Danes called him Konge Joni. Konge in the Danish dialect means king, and Joni is a corruption of Jama. Instead of saying Jama, they corrupted his name into John. So instead of saying King Jama, which we would say Ohini Jama, they said Konge Joni. And then Konge Joni in the Danish dialect becomes King Joni or King John. John in the English dialect. So when English writers write about that, they would translate Konge Joni into King Joni or King John, and sometimes they write it King June or Juni and so forth, but it comes from Konge Jone, which is corruption of the language. So they knew his name was Jama, but they pronounced his name instead of Jama. They were used to saying Johnny or John as a name. They weren't, accustomed to African names and so forth, Afurakani names, so they just corrupted the name like they always do. So, but his name is Jama, and the root is Kakaru. They called him Joni, and the root is Kakaru. Joni Kakaru, or Johnny Kakaru, is Joni Kakaru, Kakadu, which is Kakaru, the biting root, the rubbing root, the root that makes you irrepressible and untamable. And then in the Asante dialect, it is Kakaduru. In Akwamu, it's a Kakaru or Kakadu. In the Asante, it's Kakaduru. The Akwamu people say Kakaru, that's Johnny Kakaru. The Asante people say Kakaduru or Kakaruru, Kakaduru. So Johnny Kakaruru is Johnny Kakaruru, Johnny Kakaruru. That's the Asante dialect. And Johnny Kakaru or Johnny Kankaru is the Akwamu dialect. So we have both dialectical variants that are corrupted into English. The root is not the Kankaru root or the Kanker root. It's the Kakaru, which literally means the rubbing, kaka, biting or chewing, kaka, undu, or hoodoo, or medicine. So We go into all of that in the film as well. In the first film, we also talk about the Akua doll, which is the hoodoo doll baby that comes from the Akan Akua doll that many people see. You see the so-called fertility dolls, which is the same as the Ankh in ancient Kamit. And just so you can get a quick view of that, hold on a second. This is the Akan Akua doll. And then these are expressions of this is an Akua doll found in Virginia in the 1700s that we actually were able to acquire. We have that at our shrine and so forth. It's 300 years old. It's an Akua doll. This one was found in Jekyll Island in Georgia and so forth. This one was made here in North America in the Washington, D.C. area and so forth, reflective of the ancient Akan Akua doll. And when you look at the, translation of Akua Ba, the Ba is the child and Akua is the name of the divinity, but also it's the title for the doll itself. So Akua Ba is the doll child or the doll baby, and this is why we call hoodoo dolls hoodoo doll babies, as opposed to the voodoo doll or wanga doll is just a voodoo doll or a wanga doll. In hoodoo, you say a hoodoo doll baby. And the reason why you say a doll baby, because literally a ba in Akan means offspring or child or baby, and Akua is the doll itself. So Akua Ba literally translates into doll baby, doll ba, Akua Ba. And we have some other information just to move through right quick. We also address in the film the mojo and the jackball. The mojo comes from the Akan term moja. Moja means blood and so forth. And specifically, when you look at that red flannel bag, which is the mojo bag and so forth, it comes from the moja. The moja bag became the moja bag and the mojo bag and so forth. But the moja means blood, specifically the blood of the mother, the ovulatory blood that carries the ovum, the fertilized ovum and so forth, but also the blood that menstrual blood that carries the ovum when it is not fertilized. So when you see that red bag and it has ritual implements inside the bag that carries potent power, we show in the film that the actual red blood bag, the mojo bag or moja bag, is the endometrium. The endometrium is the lining of the uterus that is shed during the menstrual cycle for women and so forth. So that is the red bag, the red blood bag. Moja means blood. Moja means specifically blood of the mother and the matriclan and the matriclan deity, the female matriclan divinity. So that energy that's connected to the ovum that passes through the woman and is placed in the endometrium, the red blood bag inside the womb of the woman and so forth, that is the moja bag or mojo bag or the blood bag, the red bag and so forth. So we go into detail about that, and then we also show the jack or the jackball in the Akan tradition, dealing with the patriclan divinity, the patriclan energy, the male divinity carried by the energy of the father. The sperm cell carries the energy of the patriclan deity that we inherit by blood as Akan people, while the moja and the ovum carries the energy of the matriclan deity of female divinity. And there are 7 great matriclans in Akan culture. And every Akan person is descended from one of those 7 matriclans, one of those 7 great mothers, and one of the 7 female divinities that govern the 7 matriclans. So that mojo bag is connected to the matriclan divinity. The jackball is connected to the patriclan male divinity. This is Akan cosmology. The moja and the eja, as we show here, became the mojo and the ja, or the mojo and the jack or jackball. These are, oracular instruments utilized ritually in Hoodoo tradition, Akan tradition, that have been preserved for hundreds of years. Okay, hold on one second. Okay. A second, I just want to. Okay, there's one more piece I wanted to show you real quick before we get into some of the questions and answers. So you can post some questions in the chat room, whether you're on Zoom or on YouTube. I want to show you one more. All right. So we also go into detail about the Akan term kanche. So when you hear about a kanche man and kanche woman in the Hoodoo tradition, that comes from the Akan term kanche. That is the origin of the term kanji. So when we say Hoodoo is also called the Kanji tradition, Hoodoo comes from the Akan term undu, as we just talked about. So Hoodoo is undu. Hoodoo is the Akan tradition undu. But Hoodoo is also called kanje. And the whites in their offspring thought that we were bastardizing the term conjure, and we were just saying kanje, but we weren't bastardizing the term or Africanizing the English term. We were utilizing our own term. So kanche, when you look in the Akan dictionary, kanche, to pray, rehearse, or speak a prayer, to invoke or call upon. Ha means to speak, say, utter, tell. And ache means to come forth, as in the coming forward of the sun. So when we say good morning in the Akan tradition, we say ma ache. Ma means to give, and ache means dawning, the coming forward of the sun. So ma ache means good morning, I give you dawning. Kan che, ka means to speak, utter, say, or tell. And you can see that in the Akan dictionary. Ka with the nasal A, kan, to emit a sound, to utter, speak, say, tell. That's in the Akan language from the Akan dictionary. So that's the first part of the term. We make a comparison with the language of ancient Kamit. Ka or kai, to speak, repeat, say, cry out, call out, tell out. The same word we have in Akan language with the same meaning, ka, is also defined the same way in ancient Kamit. Ka. And as we just said, che means to become clear, visible. Che, a salutation, greeting, especially in the morning. The day breaks, things become visible. So che, to become visible. So when the sun rises in the east in the morning, that hidden power, that power that vitalizes and empowers everything, every naturally occurring entity on earth, At first, it was in the darkness, it was in the quote unquote underworld, but then it rises above the horizon and so forth. And two things happen. We become illuminated and we become vitalized. We become empowered. We can see, but we can also become empowered. When we invoke the spirits of the deities and evoke the spirits of the ancestresses and ancestors, we become illuminated, wise. We are able to see into the spirit realm and so forth. But through spirit possession, we also become empowered. So this is why we use the term che, like the sun rising in the morning, the manifestation of the power that was in the underworld, the unseen, manifesting in the world of the seen to impact the world of the seen, spirit possession, bringing spirits forward, ancestral spirits or the spirits of the Abosom, the deities, that is ritual invocation. Ka, to speak, speak, utter, say, or tell, and ache, to come forward, as in the coming forward of the sun. When we engage in ritual invocation and evocation, we speak, utter, say, or tell, ritual incantation, ritual chant, ritual prayer, and so forth, provoke the energy of the spirit so they can come forward and manifest in the world of the seen, just like the sun manifests in the world of the seen and disperses the darkness and empowers us, enlightens us and empowers us. Kan, che, to speak, utter, say, or tell, ka, ache, so that you can make the spirits come forward. Kanche means to speak or utter incantations to make the spirits come forward. And then we also show that che, in the language of ancient Kemet, to rise like the sun, or like a king on the throne, to ascend, to shine, to appear like a god or a king on a throne. But when the sun rises, it's like the king showing up on his throne in the eastern horizon and so forth. But to rise or shine like the sun. Che means to rise the sun, shine like the sun in ancient Kemet. We preserve that term as Ache in Akan, the manifestation of the sun in the morning at dawning. So you have Ka and Che, the same two words in ancient Kemet, Egypt, and ancient Nubia, Khanit, preserved in the Akan language as Ka and Che, combined into the compound word Kanche to utter incantations to make the spirits come forward. And then we continue to say that in North America as Kanje, Kanje, Kanje man, Kanje woman. There goes a Kanje man, a Kanje woman. So we're either practicing Undu or Kanche. We'll say either one. That is Hoodoo or Kanje, Hoodoo or Kanja. But we say Undu, Kanche, Hoodoo, Kanche. Hoodoo man, Hoodoo woman, Kanje woman, and became Hoodoo man, Hoodoo woman, Conjure woman, but it's really Kanje man, Kanje woman. So we do that so we show a direct, unbroken link from ancient Khanit and Kemet, Egypt and Nubia, to our people migrating to the western part of the continent over 2,000 years ago. From ancient Khanit, Nubia, we migrated west, settled in the western region of the continent, and established the Akana Empire, the so-called Ghana Empire over 2,000 years ago. 1,000 years later, because of Muslim invasions, we moved further towards the forest belt, further south, and then hundreds of years after that move, some of us were stolen from that region and forced into North America during the enslavement era. So this is how we have a direct link, physically, genetically, and ritually, and linguistically, from ancient Khanit and Kemet, Egypt and Nubia, to West Afuraka, Afuraitkait, West Africa, into North America. And we're using the same words with the same meanings and so forth, unbroken. Now, so let's get back to, so we want to answer some questions. If anybody has any questions, I want to get back to this screen. Okay. So we started off talking about our Hoodoo film trilogy. So of course, and for those who, came in a little bit later, you will see, for example, this is the trailer for the film. If you haven't seen the film, it's available now. You can access the film and so forth. But this is part one of a 3-part film trilogy. We just released this October 17th. And now we're working on part 2, filming for part 2. The second film in this trilogy begins this week. Now, in the first film you see here, I was in Ghana, in the region of Ejura or Ojira, which is a very important Akan region and so forth. I was also, you see, in ancient Khanit and Kamit and Nubia in that particular, video, doing research there as well, showing the continuity of culture from ancient Nubia and Kamit to West Afuraka, Afuraitkait, the Akan tradition in West Africa, into the Hoodoo tradition in North America. So we traveled to these different places and put this information in the film to show, what was taking place and how our culture unfolded and how we preserved our culture. So that's what we were talking about for the people who came in a little bit later. So that was part 1, and that film is out now. And then we said part 2, we'll be examining Hoodoo Ritual. So we'll be going to different states with traditional and authentic and grounded Hoodoo practitioners. And we're dealing with the various expressions of ritual. As we said, ritual song, ritual dance, ritual chant, ritual prayer, ritual meditation, spirit possession, communication, oracular divination, these various different things. Their functionality. We don't, as we said, we don't do anything that is symbolic. Everything we do is has utility and so forth. So we'll be delving into Hoodoo Ritual. The first film dealt with the true history, true story, cosmology of the culture and so forth, and identity firmly grounded in our Akan tradition. The next film will deal with the Hoodoo Ritual, and as we said, part 3, politically, how we utilize the Hoodoo tradition to wage war against the white snarl spring and force the end of enslavement, the Hoodoo Wars, and the aftermath of the Civil War and so forth. There were a number of our people who started establishing independent Black towns, purchasing land, incorporating towns, building for themselves. It wasn't just Black Wall Street. There were hundreds of Black towns all over the South, East, Southwest, and so forth. Some places in the North. We had a tradition of establishing independent sovereign spaces and building for ourselves that lasted for decades. Some of those Black towns still exist. There's Mound Bayou, Mississippi is a popular, Black town, Eatonville, Florida, and so forth. North Brentwood, Maryland, which is just walking distance. You cross the border from DC into Maryland. You walk a few blocks down and you're in North Brentwood, Maryland, which is still a functioning independent Black town. They have about 600 residents. They have their own mayor. They have their own little city council and so forth. It's been around for, in fact, next year will be 100 years. So, and we need to build on that tradition. But people who were engaged in that kind of work, they were grounded in their ancestral religious practices that informed the way they procured medicine, the way they rear their children, the way they educate themselves, the way they access, plant life, animal life, mineral life, not only for medicinal purposes, but also learning different expressions of engineering and all kinds of every aspect of human endeavor informed by our ancestral religious practices. So we're going to get into that in the third film. Now, first I want to, if you have any comments or questions on the Hoodoo tradition or the Hoodoo trilogy or any of that in the chat room, you can post it in the chat room on YouTube as well as on Zoom. Okay. So one of the questions is, looks like you're asking, is there a life reading in the Akan tradition? Hold on one second. Okay. Okay, so we talk about readings, divination. In fact, let me show you our page right quick so you can see this. This is our page, Adebisa. Adebisa is the term for oracular divination in the Akan language. And we mentioned before, for people who came in a little bit later, our first film actually is Amarokafo Adebisa, African American Ancestral Divination. And in that particular film, we put out a few years ago, won an award for that. We talk about the different forms of divination or reading, spiritual consultation that were preserved in our blood circles in North America, the Juju tradition, which is Yoruba, the Voodoo tradition, which is Ewe, the Hoodoo tradition, which is Akan, the Ngangan tradition, which is Fang, and the Wanga tradition, which is Ovambo. So how we preserve our forms of divination in our blood circles for the past 300 years here in North America. Meaning we were not dependent on traveling to Haiti to get initiated by somebody, or traveling to Cuba, or traveling to South America, traveling to the continent and so forth. We preserved our priesthoods and priestesshoods intact in the United States, just like Black people did anywhere else. So we talked about that, but that film is dealing with the different traditions. Now, we have a page, Adebisa, and we started talking about what divination actually is. Now, we say through Adebisa, which is divination, for people who are unaware of what readings are, through divination or spiritual consultation. That means when you see the image of, for example, this is just one expression, we show the cockle shells or the nwora, the cockle shells over the water and so forth. For example, that's a major form of divination within Akwamumai Marukai Itifimu, the Akwama Nation in North America. One of our major forms of divination is casting the cockle shells or the nwora inside of Nsio, which is water, and reading that way and so forth. But through Adebisa, one learns from the Abosom and Nsamanfo, the Akan term for deities, spiritual forces in creation, and the Nsamanfo, the spiritually cultivated ancestresses and ancestors. So through divination, one learns from the Abosom and Nsamanfo, the deities and spiritually cultivated ancestresses and ancestors, the nature of past, present, and potential future circumstances and events in relation to our thoughts, intentions, and actions as measured against the standard of Nyame wa Nyame, the great mother and great father, supreme beings, in Sheshe, or divine order. So that's important. So when you ask about, and that's what divination is in general, to learn about what's unfolding in the spirit realm in relation to your functioning creation and the standard of divine order. Now, do we have quote unquote life readings? People get divination for various things. Now, in a traditional way, when a child is born, is when people are practicing the culture, what you're calling a quote unquote life reading, that comes on the 8th day of the child's birth. There's a naming ceremony, abadinto, and so forth. When the child is born in our Akan tradition, we already know immediately, we have an idea, even before the naming ceremony takes place, we already have an indication of what deity governs the child's head because of our specific relationship with specific divinities. And I'll put this up right quick. So that life reading begins right away. We have our page, the Akradin Bosom page. So when you hear about Akan people named Kwesi, like myself, or Kojo, Kwajo, Ajua, Kwame, Ama, Kofi, Afua, Yao, Ya, Aba, Kweku or Kwaku, and Akua, Kwabena, Abena, Akoswia, Essi, and you hear about Akan day names, they're really called Kradin or soul names. And what that means is the day of the week you're born on is governed by one of the deities that governs the solar, lunar, or planetary body that governs that day. And when you're born on a specific day, that means that that specific divinity sent you into the world on his or her day to indicate to the community that you are a child of this divinity and your head is governed by this divinity, your spiritual head, and you're bringing that energy into the world. So you automatically have a soul name, a quote unquote day name, just by virtue of the fact that you're born on a certain day, and that's an indication that you are assigned to a specific divinity. Now, we created a chart. And just so people can see a comparison, we show the days of the week in the Akan tradition, the deities that governs the days. Wusi and Essi, on Sunday, male and female divinities. Ajua and Ajo on Monday, Bena and Abena on Tuesday, Wuku and Aku on Wednesday, Yao Ya and Aba on Thursday, Afi, Fi and Afi on Friday, and Ama and Amin Min on Saturday. These are these deities of the solar, lunar, and planetary bodies that govern the 7-day weekly cycle and all natural cycles on Earth. But then we also show their representations in different languages and cultures. Wusi and Akan is Obatala in the Yoruba tradition. He's Dangbe in Vodun. He's Osar in Ancient Khmer. Ajua in Akan is Oduwa in Yoruba. She's Minona in Vodun. She's Oset in Ancient Khmer. Benna in Akan is Ogun in Yoruba, Ogu in Vodun, Heru Bedeti in Ancient Khmer. Abena is Iyami Abeni. She's also called Idan in the Yoruba tradition. She's Ananu in Vodun, and she's Sekhmet in Ancient Khmer. Awukuna Akua is Eshu and Agberu. Agberu is the wife of Eshu. So you have Eshu and Agberu, husband and wife, Orisha. You have Awuku and Akua and Akan. You have Legba and Koni Koni in Vodun. You have Set and Nebethet in Ancient Khmer. You have Yao Ya and Aba and Akan. You have Shango, Oya, and Oba in Yoruba. Hevioso, Vejida, and Ayaba and Vodun, and Heru, Wachet, and Nekabet in Ancient Khmer. You have Afi or Afia, Afua in Akan, Oshun in Yoruba, Azili or Irzuli in Vodun, and Het Heru in Ancient Khmer. And then Amen Men or the deity Men in Akan tradition, he's Orisha Oko. In the Yoruba tradition, he's Azaka in Vodun, and he's Amen Men in Ancient Khmer. So we made a chart. Let's just show this chart. So we show the solar, lunar, and planetary bodies that govern the 7-day week. We show the actual, orbs and so forth. Sculptures from the Akan tradition with these divinities and these figurines and so forth, these sacred sculptures and so forth. Wusi, Adra, Abena, Bena, and so forth. Their names in Ancient Kemet and their representations in Ancient Kemet. So you have the Akan representation, the actual force in creation, the solar, lunar, planetary orb, to show you by comparison their names in Ancient Kemet. And these 11 male and female divinities also not only govern natural cycles on Earth, but they also govern the 11 major body systems within the person. And we show from endocrine and reproductive and lymphatic and immune and all of that, these divinities govern that. And then we show their numbers from 1 through 11, that's sacred, authentic, quote unquote, numerology, numbers associated with these deities. So, for example, if somebody is born, a female is born on Tuesday, Abenada, under the agency of the female divinity Abena, that little girl. As soon as she's born on Abena's day, Tuesday, the people know, oh, she's a child of Abena, and this is why the goddess Abena, who was called Sekhmet or Sechiman, ancient Kemet, this is why she sent her into the world on her day, to let us know that she's a child of the divinity Abena or Sekhmet. And so her first name is going to be the Kradin Abena, named after the divinity, but then she's going to have other names as well. So same thing with every Akan child that's born. So that's the first aspect of the reading, but then they get divination, and people, find out what their function is. Through that divinatory practice, they find out what their other names should be. So she may be Abena, Ajiampoma, and so forth. She, depending on what her function is, what her clan is, that Abena energy, that major Abena energy will be further particularized by the specific names associated with her matriclan and patriclan. So there are a bunch of Abenas walking around because there are a bunch of people born on Tuesday, Abenada. But then she receives a matriclan name, a patriclan name, and then a specific name uniquely related to her spirit and so forth. So it further particularizes that energy of Abena. So her unique expression of Abena energy will be different than anybody else walking around on Earth. So that's the first part. That's in the traditional space. The child is born, they find out what their function in the world is, they have a name that's associated with that function, and the parents assist them with that throughout the course of their lives. And it's the similar thing going on across wherever Afuraitkait people are, African Black people are. They find out when the child is born after a certain number of days. Spiritually, they receive a name that's associated with their divine function. And when you're talking about a life reading, that means what is your function in the world? For example, Abena, she governs the lymphatic system in your body. That's her shrine in your body. She's the lymphatic system in the great divine body of the Supreme Being. Within our communities, some people operate as lymphatic systems, immune and lymphatic systems. They're the kind of people who seek out disorder within the community and eradicate it. Whether they're dealing with security or police forces or armies, or even, on some level, people who are advocates for people, there may be a certain kind of lawyer, defense attorneys, and so forth. They're defending the community. They have a natural inclination to seek out disorder and eradicate disorder within the communal body, just like your lymphatic system seeks out the cancer cells, consumes them, eradicates them, expels them from the body, the physical body, to maintain your health. Some people have that natural inclination, that kind of Abena energy, where they engage in occupations that allow them to eradicate disorder within the family, within the community, and so forth. They have that fire to be able to do that. They can do that in the form of a surgeon. They can do that in the form of somebody in government. They can do that in the form of somebody in the military, traditional military, and so forth in our communities, but they carry that energy. So every person is a child of a specific divinity, and they carry that energy into the community. So normally we get that when we're born. In our case, people fall away from traditions, or their families get involved in church and everything else. And then people are starting to return to their ancestral tradition. And people very often seek divination, adibisa. The first thing we always encourage people to do is begin to establish a relationship with your ancestresses and ancestors by establishing an ancestral shrine and nkomre and start engaging them. Just like you can sit down and meditate, meditation is always guided. So for us, we always are guided by the Abosom or the Nsamanfo, the deities and ancestral spirits. So we establish a shrine so you can begin to ground yourself, attune into who you are, where you come from, begin to engage that communication with your Nsamanfo so they can show you exactly who you are, what your clan is, and so forth. But people do get divination no matter what, tradition people are from. But Akan people do divination for people. Yoruba people do that. Every group who's doing some real ancestral religious practice, there are forms of divination that we utilize. to put people on the right track, or show them really what divination really is doing is showing you what your akra, your ori, your spiritual head, the divinity that governs your head, that's been telling you internally, and for some reason right now you can't really hear what that divinity is showing you internally. So through divination, we show you externally what the divinity that governs you has been trying to show you internally all along, to show you what your function in the world is, and if you're in harmony with that, or if you're out of harmony, out of alignment with your divine function. But no matter what, hold on one second. No matter what, even when you get, readings and so forth, when people are really giving you proper information, you still need to confirm that, because it's your responsibility, just as an adult in general, as part of, this Afuraitkait cultural community. And I mean, plant life, animal life, mineral life, Afuraitkait, African Black human life, we're part of a community. And we're talking about Black human life only. We're part of this holistic community. It's part of your responsibility as an adult within the Afuraitkait African Black community, as well as, the community of life itself, plant life, animal life, mineral life, and so forth, to know what your function in the world is, so you can harmoniously function in the world and engage the world in a harmonious way amongst your own people, as well as plant life, animal life, and mineral. Of course, the whites in Arab Spring, they don't engage the world in a harmonious way, so they destroy plant life, they pollute mineral life, destroy, animal life, and so forth. Of course, we're at war with them because they are parasitic entities and so forth, so they can't engage the world in a harmonious fashion. Us, we're part of this universe in a naturally occurring manner. So we have to, just as adults, it's our responsibility to know what our function is, become grounded in that, and execute our function in the world. And when we make mistakes, we engage the ritual process, which is what ancestral religion is about, to incorporate divine law and restore divine balance to our thoughts, intentions, and actions. So you would have to, no matter what reading somebody gives you, it's your responsibility to confirm that and affirm that through your own ritual practice. And just like if a doctor says you have a certain illness, you can confirm it, but then you have to do something about it. You can get divination to find out certain things that are going on and what track you need to be on, or if you're off track and so forth, what divinity governs you. But once you get that information, now it's time for you to get up and engage the ritual process to realign your spirit with divine order. Okay. Hold on one second. I just want to look in the chat room right quick. Okay, there's a question in the chat room. Is it okay to be with and have children with a person from a different African tribe, such as Akan and the Ga, or does it have to be strictly the same tribe? So, no, we've always done that. There Akan people have mixed with Yoruba people, mixed with Ga people and Ewe people and so forth. The only restriction, of course, is we do not mix with non-Black individuals. They are spirits of disorder without exception. So we don't pollute our bodies or pollute our spirits by intermixing with any of the whites in our spring, whether white Europeans, white Americans, white Asians, white Hindus, white Hispanics, white, pseudo-Native Americans and so forth. Only Black people can complement one another. And of course, it's a Black man and Black woman. We don't engage in the idiocy or perversity of dissexuality, homosexuality. But when we're talking about mates and complementing and so forth, complementary opposites, we've always done that. Normally, in most cases, you're going to be naturally drawn to someone of your own clan, because it's not just you and that person, but you have ancestresses and ancestors, and you have people from your matriclan, people from your patriclan, And there's a certain energy complex that you've inherited through the matriclan divinity, just like you've inherited certain things from your DNA, your mitochondrial DNA, and you have certain characteristics that you've inherited from your mother, and you can see it in your phenotype, you can see it in your temperament and so forth. You've also received energy from the matriclan deity that's surging through your blood circle, that's connecting you to the matriclan ancestresses and ancestors. And the same thing on the patriclan side. You receive genetic material from the Y chromosomal DNA from the father. You have the phenotype, you have the temperament and so forth, but then you also have an energy complex from the divinity that animated the sperm cell that brought that part of your being into reality. The patriclan divinity, we call it Abosom, and a certain energetic quality that's unique to your clan that you bring that energy into the world too. So most people are naturally drawn to people of their same clan, but it's not, it's not against divine order to connect with other Black people of other clans. It is against divine order to pollute yourself by connecting with one of the whites in our spring. Okay. Okay, I'm just checking the okay. Okay, question, is there going to be a group trip to Ghana, like the group trip to Kamit? And what the individual is talking about, let me just pull that up right quick. So we do plan to have a group trip to Ghana at some point. We talked about that, a small group of us talked about that over a year ago. As a matter of fact, so you said the group trip to Kemet. So for people who are unaware, we have a trip to Kemet, this flyer right here, June 4th through June 12th. This is the one that's coming up. We already have, that one is already full, but we also recently, and this is our trip page. So we talk about this trip to Kemet, a yearly trip in the summertime and so forth. These are a number of different videos from the last trip that we took a number of people to Kamit, study tour going from Nubia, Khanit, all the way to various 13 different sites in 12 different cities, from southern Kamit and into northern Khanit or Nubia, all the way to northern Kamit and so forth. So we have about 13 or so videos, actually more than that, showing people what's, what to expect on the trip. So actually, we just recently, so the people that we went to Kemet with, we were actually talking about a trip to Ghana as well. And we may do that. We're going to look into that. We'll probably do it more than likely. It wouldn't be later this year. We could do something later this year, but more than likely early next year and so forth. So, but we'll see. But we have been talking about that. We just recently added, so for people who are unaware, we added a trip for August 20th through the 28th to Kemet. Some people can't make the trip that's coming up in June. So we have one for August 20th through the 28th. We just put that on the website just a few days ago. And we let some people know. This is going to be a smaller group, about 15 people. So if you would like to travel with us to Kemet and Khanit, Egypt and Nubia, you'll see the flyer, the August 20th through 28th flyer. So this is June is coming up kind of quick, and some people were not aware, and plus we're full for that particular trip. So we scheduled a second one, August 20th through 28th, only about 15 people. Right now, there are like 4 people who have indicated that they're going to that one. So we have like 11 spots left for that one. If you want to secure your space, and you'll see all the information is there, it's $3,000 for the trip. That includes round trip airfare from New York to Cairo and back and so forth, and the cruise and the meals and all the different things that we're doing. If you want to secure your space, and I can put this in the chat room on YouTube, you can secure your spot for $300, a $300 down payment, or you can pay more than that. But if you want to just secure your spot for $300, you can do that. And then we have a payment plan option. You can pay monthly up until like the beginning of July. This is a good time for some people because this is right around the time that people get their W-2s and so forth and their tax returns. And some people will just use their tax return to cover the trip. And if they never thought they would be able to go to Kamit and so forth, this is a time that they can actually go. So, but if you want to secure your space with one of the remaining spots that we have left open for that August 20th through 21st, August 20th through 28th. You can go on the website right now. I'll put that. In fact, let me put that link in the chat room right now. Okay, so that's the Afuraitkait Kamit page. And when you go to the page, once again, you'll see these videos. And as we were talking, when you asked the question about Ghana, when we came back from this trip, we were talking about scheduling, organizing a trip for Ghana. So, like we said, most likely it will be the early part of next year, because we're doing Kamit, this summer. So okay, so you said which divinity governs the knees? I have a partial meniscus tear and trying to prevent surgery if I can. Okay, so let me just show you this. Go back to our chart. Oh, here it is. Now, starting off, when you see the chart, you see the different divinities. And then you'll see the skeletal system. And you'll see the divinity Amen Men, which is a form of the deity Men in ancient Kemet. He's called Amen Men and Akan. He's called Orisha Oko in Yoruba, Azaka and Vodun. And then on the feminine side, there's a specific form of Het Heru where she's called Min Menit, and she's called Amen Meniwa in Akan. So on the masculine side, the divinity Amen Men. On the feminine side is Min Menit or Het Heru and so forth, governing that skeletal system in general. So now, depending on what's taking place, sometimes when you have an injury, you may have been out of harmony with the energy of a specific divinity, which leads you to have a deficit in the aspect of the body that they govern, the major body system that they govern. And then because there's a deficit, you end up doing something that normally you would be able to easily engage in, and then it causes a problem. So, or there may be a deficiency mineral-wise based on the divinity that governs that particular system. You may be low in calcium or something like that, and the divinity that governs that particular mineral. Because you're out of harmony with that, then you end up erring in that direction, and then you're deficient in that mineral, and then it causes other problems when you do regular everyday activities. So, but there can be some more specific. There are general divinities that govern these major systems, and then within these systems, so for example, The endocrine system is the ductless glands, of course, and that's governed by Awusi or Asar on the masculine side. But then each one of those glands, there are different divinities that govern those as well. So as a system itself, Asar governs the system, and then each one of those glands, they have like the thymus connected to Kansu, and the pancreas connected to Anpu and so forth, those different things. But the same thing here, the skeletal system with Amen Men, as well as Heteru is Men Menit, but then it becomes more particularized based on what's actually happening with you. But that's one of those things. One of those things, those kinds of issues, you first start off with developing a relationship with your Nsamanfo, your ancestresses and ancestors, and then they begin to pinpoint specific things, specific areas in life that are out of balance. And sometimes if you're out of balance in one area, then the expression of that will be some kind of ailment or some kind of problem with finances or some kind of problem with your car or some, different kinds of things because you're out of harmony with that specific element. And once you get in alignment with that force in creation, then it begins to fill in the open spaces of that energy, and then you overcome these different issues. Okay. Okay, question about when you're doing ritual, do you need to do them in the middle of the night between 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. to be more powerful? You don't have to, it just depends on what you're engaged in. Some people, depending on their clan and what they're doing, their Nsamanfo prefer a, late night, hold on a second. Their Nsamanfo prefer a late night, hold on, let me make sure this is not, I'm looking at this live chat, okay. Their Nsamanfo prefer, they will direct you as to what time you should go. Sometimes it's in the full energy of the noonday sun. That fiery energy of the noonday sun is very powerful for certain people. Some people, it's that break between between dawn and sunrise. When the energy is coming from the quote unquote underworld and manifesting in the world of the seen, and that crossing over takes place, sometimes for some people, that's the best time. It depends on your clan, also your own spiritual temperament. So, but again, those kinds of things are the reason why you develop a relationship with your Nsamanfo, including what you would have on your shrine. We have an article and we have a whole course, 6-week course on ritual, and that's on the website, and we'll post that information as well. And we talk about, basic establishing an ancestral shrine and certain elements, fire, water, earth, and air, and so forth. But once you have those basic elements, once you begin to engage your people, your great-great-great-grandmothers and great-great-great-grandfathers and so forth, those who are spiritually cultivated, not just anybody, that class of ancestral spirits who are spiritually cultivated, they will direct you as to what they want you to place on the shrine, what things you should not place on the shrine, what time of day or what day of the week or what days of the week they want you to commune with them, and what days of the week you will be quote unquote off. So and in fact, let me pull that up. So this is our, hold on. This is our Akongwaswea, which is our institution. And one of the things we've done in our institution is we've taught a number of 6-week courses, 4-week online courses, and so forth. They are all archived at this point, so you have access to them. There are 38 of these courses. The 6-week courses are $15 each. The 4-week courses are $10 each, and so forth, 50% off. And when you scroll through the page, you'll see that the original flyers for the course, and it talks about what they're dealing with. But we give you the links and the passcodes so you can access, these courses. We also have a deal for the entire set of 38 courses for $200 for the entire set. But each course is either, like for example, this was a 4-week course. It was originally $20 for 4 weeks, but the discount, because it's archived, is $10 for that 4-week course. For those that were 6 weeks, like the Madanechi course was a 6-week course. It was originally $30 for the 6-week course. It is now $15. So you will see the original flyers and so forth. You can choose which ones you would like to, access, and you can access them. You will notice that we mentioned a number of books on our Nhoma page, our book page. I've published 31 books to date. When you go to the Nhoma page on our website, you'll see these books. You can download all 31 of our books for free. The ebook versions, we've always made them free for years. We sell the softcover versions. Right now, we are actually transitioning them over from printing them ourselves to Amazon. So we'll let people know when that is complete. But the ebook versions of all 31 of our books are free downloads. So that includes the Hoodoo books we were talking about, a number of different texts. So you can download those for free. And when you look at the courses, they're based on the books, but then we also have other articles and things that have not been published yet that we address in the courses as well. Hold on 1 second. Okay, so for the one thing that we put out recently, so some of you have seen the Hoodoo film that we released in October. If you haven't, you can access it now. In fact, you can access both of our films, our first film and the second film. So, but we did this crowdfunding effort. I'm going to put this in the link. So we are starting production for part 2 of the film, the Hoodoo Trilogy. We're starting filming this week. So we have a crowdfunding effort right here. We've had 2 people so far contribute to our crowdfund, and we appreciate that. I'll put the link in the chat room. We're raising funds for some more equipment, and as well as we'll be traveling to different cities and so forth, different states, to film different Hoodoo practitioners and, in ritual and so forth. So we're asking for people to assist us in that effort. Let me put the link. And if you have not seen the first or the second film, you can let us know in the comment section. If you make a contribution now. This is the link right here, Hoodoo film. So I just want to make sure that's in the okay, so you should be able to see that in the chat room. Okay, so yeah, if you go there now, make a donation. If you haven't seen the film, we can send you the link to the Hoodoo film, as well as the Divination film that we did a few years ago. If you have seen those 2, then for your contribution, of course, when this new film comes out, when we release it, as well as when we do different screenings in different cities, you'll be on the list, and then you can, attend a screening for free. You won't have to pay a ticket for entry and so forth. You can attend the screening for free. When we make it available online for purchase, you'll already have paid and so forth because you made a contribution, so you'll have access to the film once it comes out and so forth. So, and that's just across the board. Anybody who donates, you'll have access to the film for free once it comes out, part 2, and then you'll, as well as part 3, and then you'll also have access to a free screening in your city. We plan to go to different cities. We're already planning, in fact, next month we'll be in Alabama, in Birmingham, Alabama. We'll be screening the film at the Crescent Community Cultural Center in Birmingham, Alabama. We'll have a screening and a discussion. There'll be vegan food available and so forth. So that's next month, and we're going to be scheduling some more screenings. We're also working to have the film placed in a number of different film festivals. So, you know, you submit them to the film festivals, and once they accept it, then they let you know. So there are film festivals coming up, and we're submitting to that. So we're waiting to hear back. You know, it takes, depending on what their deadlines are and so forth. So, but that's the link. So if you'd like to contribute now, please do so. If you have any questions, of course, post them in the chat. But that's one of the reasons that we put this out recently, because we're starting the production for part 2 of this film series this week. So we're selling the film, you know, already, but then we need some assistance with regard to the new equipment that we need to incorporate with regard to our production, so it's the highest quality. So we appreciate those who are contributing. Hold up, I just want to look in the chat room on and let me put this also in a so I'm putting the link also to the site where you can purchase access to both of our films. And please share this link as well to people. But that PayHip link, when you go to that PayHip link, this is what you'll see. So that PayHip link, you'll see the first film, which is $11.11, and it's unlimited access. You know, you're watching on demand, just like you know, Netflix or whatever. But I mean, you know, it's direct for us purchasing, and then you can watch it. We send you the link and the password, and then you have unlimited access to the film. This is the Birmingham event, February 24th. If you're in Birmingham, come check us out. Live screening, discussion. The first one is the first film, Odwirafo Adibisa, African American Ancestral Divination. And then the third one is our new film that we just released, $13.31. You have unlimited access, Hoodoo, Akan Ancestral Religion in North America. So that is on the PayHip site. But again, if you contribute now on the crowdfund effort, then if you haven't seen either one of the films, we'll send you, you know, you will include your email through your contribution. Just let us know if you've seen the films. If you haven't seen them, then you don't have to, you know, go and purchase them through the PayHip site. We'll just send you, you know, the access, you know, the link and the passcodes and so forth to do that. So that's the information we wanted to cover. We just want to introduce people to what's going on and what we're doing, what's moving forward next. We will be back on with our Hoodoo Cast podcast for Authentic Hoodoo. We were doing that on a weekly basis for a while, and then, you know, back in the summertime, but then we paused production on the podcast. Let me show you that as well. this is our Hoodoo Cast page on our website. We also have a Patreon group for that. You see the first 7 episodes are on our YouTube page, so you can check those out. We were doing those on a weekly basis, but then we paused production on the podcast because we were working on this film that we just released. And we had a deadline and we wanted to make sure we got the film released. And it was released right during the same week of our 9th annual Hoodoo Mind, Hoodoo Nation Festival. So we were, making sure we were in post-production. So we paused, that. And then after that, we were, getting the word out for the film and so forth. But now we're going to get back into broadcasting the Hoodoo Cast on a regular basis once again. But you'll see the episodes there on the website. Okay. Okay, so we appreciate everybody for tuning in. That's the information we wanted to cover. If you have any questions, of course, just, let us know via, of course, we're Kwesi Akan on Facebook, Odwirafo on Instagram, Odwirafo on Twitter, Odwirafo on Fanbase, which is a Black-owned social media site, very similar to Instagram with Fanbase. Odwirafo on Fanbase. We also have Odwirafo Akan on, Facebook, Odwirafo on TikTok as well. And if you have any questions, of course, we can answer those. But once again, please share this information, the Hoodoo Film Trilogy crowdfund effort. We have this deadline to complete. Well, we're starting the filming this week, but we're going to complete the film so it can be released around the time in between. So for us, our New Year observance is September either 22nd or 23rd, whichever is the first full day of the equinox, the autumn equinox. That is our New Year's Day. So we have a 7-day observance from the September 16th through the 22nd, or September 17th through the 23rd, depending on the year. A 7-day New Year observance, and the first day of the equinox, as we said, is our New Year's Day. So either the 23rd or 22nd of September, and then 3 weeks after that is our annual Hoodoo Mind, Hoodoo Nation Festival. So it is between the autumn equinox, September 23rd and October 15th. It's during that period that we will release our second film in this Hoodoo Trilogy series, just like we did this past October. So since we have that deadline, we want to complete that deadline. So this is why we have the crowdfund available. Okay. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and end it here. Once again, Yedase, we thank you for tuning in with us. And once again, Yedase, that means we thank you in Akan, and Yebishia Bio, we will meet again. That's it.